Oh, hey, what's going on, Inspirators? It's your boy, Tony D, Tony Doyle Inspires.com, back once again with another video. Um, I'd like to thank you guys for popping in the Inspirate channel once again, and think we got something pretty good for you guys today. So, we like to, on this channel, we like to really inspire you different types of ways, and really the way I can do that best is by sharing what inspires me on my journey. Um, and one of the things, that I teach from is called the Four Pillars. It's actually really the structure of all my coaching and teaching. And basically, it talks about the balance and finding a balance between a mindset, a heart set, a soul set, and a health set. So, that being said, I want to make sure we are covering all four of those on this channel as well. And like I said, sharing those things that may be inspiring to you, maybe you had questions about, and just letting you know what works for me. And as always, asking you to do the work, do your own research. But I would like to share some basis of things that I have found that work for me. And today we're going to be tackling a piece of my health set, something that I take very seriously and that I have definitely found helpful for me, and that is that of intermittent fasting, IF. Some of you guys may have heard of intermittent fasting. Some of you guys may participate in it. As always, I do invite you to share your personal experience down in the comment section, or go to our YouTube page or group of the same name, Inspirate, NSPR8 is the name of the group, where we like to have lively conversations about each of these videos and the topics thereof. That being said, we are going to get started. Health set. We're talking about intermittent fasting, the benefits, the downfalls, who it's for, who it's not for, those types of things. So, if that is interesting to you, please, as always, if you haven't already, that is, please subscribe. Hit the little bell symbol, and that's the notifications, and it'll let you know every day when we put out new content. And we are dedicated to putting out new content every single day in different ways to inspire you. As always, if you like this, please hit the thumbs up. It actually works here on YouTube in a different type of way than it does on some other platforms. It actually works with the algorithm to help folks, like-minded folks to yourself, who may be interested in the video but wouldn't normally be able to see it, help them suggest this video as something they may want to check out. So I would appreciate that. As always, if you really love it, please share it out to your friends directly, or put it on your social media pages, timelines, stories, groups, etc. All right, that being said, let's get into it. Intermittent fasting. What is it? What isn't it? Is it for you? Well, I will tell you, in my own personal journey in life, this is one of the core things that I honestly live by. And I have tweaked it a couple of times. And but it's something that I implement literally every week of my life. It is a part of my normal regimen, and it has a lot of health benefits. And we're going to talk about those things that I've found, and some of the scientific research as well. So, what is intermittent fasting? So, obviously, it's currently one of the world's most popular health and fitness trends. Okay, you can find it trending all over. It's called IF. Certainly look it up. As always, I always tell you, do your own research. But let me share with you what I know about it, and let's see if it's something you want to go into, right? People use it not only to lose weight, which that is one thing, and some programs focus on that, but actually it's to improve overall health and actually to simplify your lifestyle. And I'll show you how that works, at least for me. Many studies have shown that it is powerful processing and have really good effects on your body and brain, and can actually help with your longevity. So help you live longer in a more healthful, more aware type of way. So what is intermittent fasting? So it's not a diet, okay? So first and foremost, let me just dispel that, because people use it for weight loss and in their weight loss routines. It is not a diet. It's actually a process for eating. So it's a pattern that works on cycles between fasting and eating. So we have different windows or periods, and so if you just think of it as 2 cycles, okay, and obviously here's the basic thing. So we've been taught that you need 3 square meals a day. Sometimes if you're diabetic or you have other issues, they want you to eat 4 to 6 small meals a day. Like, there's all of these types of different things. But if you look, if you break it down into 2 cycles, a cycle of either eating or fasting, okay, which is refraining from eating, then it's easier to describe intermittent fasting to you. So, like I said, so basically it's an eating pattern. The cycles between this eating and fasting. It doesn't specify what foods you eat specifically, but really it's talking about at what time of day that you eat on a consistent basis. And setting up this period has a lot of benefits for you, okay? So, like I said, it's not really a diet in a conventional sense, but it's more accurately an eating pattern or a system, all right? So, there's 2 really common intermittent fasting periods. They involve 16-hour fasts, or possibly a 24-hour fast once or twice a week, okay? So most commonly, most of the people I know that do IF, they do a period of fasting on a daily basis. Super easy to get into, because once you realize that we are always either in a fasting window or a feeding window, even in our normal natural state, right? So if you think about it like this, if you eat your last meal, whatever time it is, say it's 9 o'clock at night, okay? You eat your last meal, and then you go to bed, and you wake up, say you are a breakfast person, okay? And you eat breakfast again at 9 a.m. You have just essentially had about a 12-hour fast, right? Because there was 12 hours between that time that you finished your last meal and you began your other meal. Now, obviously, scientifically speaking, there was time to break down that meal and blah, blah, blah. But just as far as setting up the patterns and realizing how natural intermittent fasting is, it's a natural state. It's what we do. Our body normally goes into ketosis. I have another video on keto, so you might want to check that out, because that does have more to do with what you're eating. But our body naturally goes into this state of ketosis overnight, where we start burning off our fat stores, and we're not powered by the same the proteins that we're constantly ingesting like we are through the day. So that being said, intermittent fasting is natural, and what we do is we look to normally extend the period of ketosis. So the period of fasting will go from a normal 10 to 12 hours that someone may have to lots of times, and one of the most common and actually the easiest I've found for myself is in skipping breakfast, okay? And the reason that's that's easy for me is because I go to work. So you guys know I'm part of the 5 a.m. club, and that's another part of my health and wellness regimen that we get into in another video. But so I get up. Food is not anywhere in my priorities. In fact, I don't eat at all. My fasting window is all the way until 3 o'clock in the afternoon most days. I actually have a feeding window from 3 to 9 p.m. So I have 6 hours of which I eat. I usually eat right at 3 o'clock. You guys know I work with schools, with school kids and things. So when they get out of school, I usually eat my first meal of the day. It won't even be a huge meal at that point. But I will eat something at 3 o'clock. And then when I get home, we get the kids together, we're doing homework, and, we're doing all the things there. I may record a video, all those different things. And then by 8:30, I'm eating my dinner meal, usually with the family. So I eat basically 2 meals within that 6-hour period. And then I don't eat again all the way until the next day at 3 o'clock. All right, so 24 hours in a period. So I'm obviously doing 18 hours. I'm doing what's called an 18-6. All right, so I'm having 18 hours of fasting where my body is in ketosis, and then I'm having a feeding window of 6 hours. And like I said, you don't eat for the whole 6 hours, but that's just the period of time when your body gets regulated into ingesting food. So fasting, and some of you guys may know about fasting. There's a lot of religions that incorporate fasting throughout the world, but it's been a very common practice throughout human evolution. Ancient hunters and gatherers didn't have supermarkets and refrigerators and all that stuff, or even any regular food available all year round. So sometimes they didn't have food to eat, or at least a specific type. Sometimes they may have existed on nuts and berries, and sometimes they may have eaten meat or other types of vegetation that grow, in the spring. So it's actually really natural, and humans have evolved to be able to function without food for extended periods of time. In fact, fasting from time to time is more natural than eating every 3 or 4 hours per day. That is actually, obviously in the West, I live in the U.S., and it's very common for, as we started out this video, talking about eating, 3 to 4 meals, sometimes up to 6 small meals, Western science and medicine tell us, for certain things. That is a very new phenomena and a very Western approach to medicine. And if you guys have followed me long, I'm not a huge advocate for the Western approach to medicine on a regular basis. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of scientific studies to this. So let's just talk about it. And like I said, fasting is done for religious purposes also, as far as for clarity. Islamic, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, all kind of different religions use it to help focus the mind and to put the body into this ketosis state, where it's kind of a mind over matter, and it's the knowing. It's your inner knowing that you can do that your body is not the mind. It doesn't control everything you do. So intermittent fasting, like I said, it's an eating pattern. It cycles between these periods, and it's actually very natural, okay? And it's very healthful. So a couple of methods. Like I said, there's a couple different styles of doing intermittent fasting, and actually you can tweak it, and I've tweaked it several times. Like I said, right now I'm on an 18-6 most days, but even with that, I personally have tweaked it to where on Sundays I enjoy breakfast omelets with my family. Um, like it's something I like to do. We take turns actually cooking the omelets, all fresh ingredients, vegetarian omelets I love. We've got the fresh mushrooms and green peppers and onions and all that stuff in there. It's a great break from the other pattern, because the other thing you can get into with any pattern is your body just gets conditioned and then you start losing the benefits, right? So, like I said, normally most people do a 16-8. It's very natural. It's an extended ketosis period where you feed for 8 hours, which may be from like a 1 to 9. That way you get lunch in and then you get your dinner in, and then you fast in between that. Another way that folks like to do it, I know a lot of religions like to fast either one day a month, sometimes one day a week. Of course, there's like Lent, where some people may give up certain parts of their diet for a certain period of time, and that would also fall into intermittent fasting, depending on what it is. So if you were to give up all food for a week, for one, that would be really hard on your body, but it would be a form of fasting. You would be able to get through that. Your body could absolutely stand most bodies, and let me put this disclaimer on there. Fasting, like everything else, is not for every single person. Okay, where it does have healthful benefits, there are folks who need to take medicine on a regular basis that need to have some kind of protein or fat soluble substance with those medications. They may have a low blood sugar issue where you do need a certain amount as you go. So, with all things, check with your doctor to make sure this is good for you. But this is my journey that I'm letting you know, and kind of the research that I did on it going into it, and it definitely has been helpful for me. So, by reducing your calorie intake during these periods, like whatever method you choose, could cause some weight loss. Okay, so if that's a benefit that you want or you're looking for, it can certainly help you with that. Like I said, we don't focus on what you eat though. So if you were to eat really crappily in your feeding window, high fats, or you just do fast food, you're not going to lose weight. In fact, you could actually gain weight doing this if the meal that you cut out was your healthy meal. You know what I'm saying? So, as with all things, this is a process, a means to an end. But let me tell you a little bit about the things that are beneficial about the process of this. So when you fast, several things happens in your body, okay? Like in a cellular, molecular level, all right? For example, your body adjusts hormone levels to make stored body fat more accessible, okay? That's the process of ketosis, okay? Your cells also initiate important repair processes, okay? And they change the expression of the genes. All right, so this is what we talk about. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this as part of his process, and it's the reset. He calls it hitting the reset, and a lot of that has to do with getting your body in this intermittent fasting off of its normal feeding cycle, where it's constantly trying to digest something, okay? So here are some of the changes that occur in the body, and I've written these down, so let me read this for you. So HGH, human growth hormone, okay? The level of growth hormone skyrockets. Okay, these are changes that occur in your body when you're fasting. Okay, so your HGH level skyrockets as much as 5-fold. Okay, this has benefits for fat loss and muscle gain, to name a few. So you will see a lot of bodybuilders use IF in conjunction with their high protein protocol. Okay, Some more benefits. Insulin sensitivity improves and levels of insulin drop dramatically. Okay. So lower insulin levels make some stored body fat more accessible as well. All right. So that's a benefit to those folks who may be diabetic, pre-diabetic. We'll talk about some negative things to that as well as some balancing off. But a third thing that happens with IF and fasting in general is cellular repair. That's that reset button that we were talking about. So when you fast, your cells initiate cellular repair process, okay, because they are for once allowed to do what they're supposed to be doing instead of sending all their energy to digest these heavy foods that we're used to eating on such a regular basis. So this includes where your cells digest and remove all the old dysfunctional proteins that build up inside the cells. So if they're not constantly trying to digest new protein, they go and they start getting decaying things that you've stored away for a rainy day, as it were. Your body looks at this as a rainy day period, a dry period, like we were talking about before. Our ancestors didn't always have, fresh meat to eat. They didn't always have anything, things were much harder to come by, and our body is used to being able to use these periods to use up those things. It's kind of like, how squirrels like store nuts for the winter. Well, what if the winter never came? And you've all seen the chipmunks and the squirrels rocking around with all the nuts that they've stored. Well, what if they ate all those and the winter never came and they continued eating and eating? They would probably look like a lot like we do, right? Obesity is an all-time level, high level, and our inactivity and our dis-ease in our bodies and our stress hormones and all those things. So another benefit to fasting in general is gene expression. You've probably heard this from Dr. Joe and a few other people talking about our genes. So there are changes in the function of genes related to longevity and protection against disease. Okay? These changes in hormone levels, cell function, and gene expression are all responsible for health benefits from intermittent fasting. Okay? So when you fast, your body's HGH levels go up, insulin level goes down, your body's and cell, the expressions change to the genes, and they initiate important cellular repair protocols, some of which we don't tap into at all until we get into these periods of life. All right. Like I said, you can use it as a weight loss tool. That is something, obviously, you could see the benefits of that if you, once again, cut out a high-fat meal with a lot of calories. There would be a lot of benefit to that. If you cut out a vegetarian omelet and you called that your fasting, probably not as much, okay? So, like I said, if you want to use that, there's definitely research to say the intermittent fasting naturally helps that. Obviously, caloric intake goes down. But like I said, intermittent fasting itself is not a diet, and we don't focus on what we're eating in that feeding window in this particular protocol. But let's talk about the other health benefits. Like I said, there is some for weight loss. There's also insulin resistance. So intermittent fasting can reduce insulin resistance, okay, which lowers your blood sugar from anywhere between 3 and 6%, which could be enough if you're, say, borderline diabetic or something like that. Fasting insulin levels by as much as 20 to 30%, okay, which, like I said, can protect against type 2 diabetes. So this is very much something that we, folks who are on borderline of getting diabetes, is very helpful, okay? Now we're going to talk about folks who are obese, morbidly obese and diabetic, and some of the negative things that might go along with that and how to offset that. But some other health benefits are inflammation. Studies have shown a reduction in markers and inflammation, which is a key driver to chronic diseases. There is a reduction in inflammation based on your body. Once again, we're cellular regeneration. We're doing these cleaning protocols. Heart health is a big one. A lot of heart doctors I know are in love right now with intermittent fasting and experimenting with that. Intermittent fasting reduces what they call the bad LDL cholesterol, the blood triglycerides, inflammatory markers, blood sugar, insulin resistance. All of these are risks for heart disease, and intermittent fasting has been shown to reduce each of those. Okay, so that's great. And let's talk a little bit about cancer. They have just started studies about how intermittent fasting works with that. Initial studies suggest that intermittent fasting can prevent some cancers or reduce their overall effect on the body. Once again, this regeneration process, as we know, disease is caused by stress, and the less we stress out the cells in the body, and the more fully functional they are to take out those wastes, the more likely it is that we will stay healthful in our wellness practices overall. And let's not forget brain health. The oldest studies, some of the initial studies they did was on brain health, and intermittent fasting has been shown to increase brain hormone levels, which is BDNF, and the growth of nerve cells also provides a protective layer against Alzheimer's disease in several different studies. Okay, so for those of us, which I think at this point a majority of us probably have folks that have been touched with Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, intermittent fasting has been shown to slow down or eliminate that in studies. So it's a great thing. So and along with that, general anti-aging. So intermittent fasting has been shown to extend lifespan in studies. In fact, it showed that those fasting could live as much as 36 to 80% longer, depending on what their health state was like when they started. But every single level had a benefit at some level. So basically that's saying no matter what you do, if this is right for you, even if you try a little bit, it's going to help a little bit, and every little bit counts, right? So alkaline water. Another video on this on my channel. Check it out. Another part of my health protocol. All right. So let's talk a little bit, and I'm going to wind this up. I don't want to take too much, but once again, do your own research. This is what I found out. And a lot of this, I did my research before I started it. And like I said, I've done a couple tweaks here. But making your lifestyle simpler, how can it do that? Eating healthy is simple, but it can be hard to maintain, right? So one of the main obstacles to all work required in planning and cooking healthy meals, right? So it's meal prep and all that stuff. Intermittent fasting can make things easier because you don't have to plan and cook and clean up as many meals as before, for one, right? It also can make it easier because you get on a really tight pattern. Like I said, I know exactly when I'm going to eat now because it's such a short window, you know. So I'm in the school, I come out of the school, I eat at 3 o'clock. You know, I do other things that I'm going to do. I go home, sit and talk and cook with my family. Then we eat dinner meal, and then we get ready for bed. We do our nightly protocol. Makes it super simple. Gives me more time to meal prep and less meals to prep for. And then in conjunction, with whatever the diet regimen that you're following, that can help as well. Now let's talk a little bit about safety and side effects, because it is not for everyone. But here's the beautiful thing: in most people, about 90% of people, hunger is the main side effect of intermittent fasting. Okay, and that is something that you overcome actually fairly quickly, I found. Okay, you may also feel some weakness and some sluggishness in the very beginning. Okay, like I said, it's mostly temporary. It does take your body a little bit of time to adapt to a new meal schedule, because it's used to getting so much protein and actually sugar. At least in the Western societies, we eat sugar about 6 or 7 times a day, and so your body's used to that little jolt. You know what I mean? So even though sugar eventually leads to a down, when you're increasing, every time you're coming down off of sugar, you're putting more sugar in your body is used to having that constant little high level, to boost it up. So it may take a while, but you'll feel way better once it actually kicks in. Okay. Now, if you do have a medical condition, definitely consult with a doctor, nutritionist, before you start tweaking around with your diet like this. Okay, particularly important if you already have diabetes. Okay, if you've got some other blood sugar regulation, if you got low blood pressure, you take like regular medications. If you have especially a history of eating disorders, this can re-trigger you. So if you've overcome that and then you get on this, not a good idea. Definitely consult with a doctor. Also, if you are a female who are trying to conceive or are pregnant, or once again have a history of anorexia or something like that, or if you're breastfeeding, it's better to get a regular level of protein during that period. Then you can go, once you're done breastfeeding, you can get back on your intermittent fasting and actually help you lose your body weight and get more regulated again. So all that being said, intermittent fasting has an outstanding safety profile. Okay, there is nothing dangerous about not eating for a little while if you're a healthy and well-nourished overall. But like I said, if you do already have some health issues, consult a doctor. Okay.